There we go. Sarah, welcome to the GRANITEZERO podcast. Thank you very much for giving me your time.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. First up, what's it like out in Thailand? I am super jealous right now.
Oh, it's so good. It's so amazing.
Is it?
Honestly, it's really laid back. Everybody's happy.
I need some
Nobody's
of
stressed. It's
that.
good.
It's funny, isn't it? Because I just thought that just then. It's like, it's super laid back. It's chilled out, but yet they have one of the most brutal combat sports ever made in Thai boxing.
Oh, yeah.
Muay Thai.
We took the girls to see Muay Thai. Am I saying it right? Muay Thai.
Yeah, Muay Thai, yeah.
They loved it.
Did they?
Loved it. Especially the dancing before, where they're like
Yeah, because
doing the little fancy dance.
it's all very traditional still. And do they still play all the, it's like a horrible music in the background?
Yeah. There was a live band in the corner, a live Thai band playing the instruments. It was amazing.
If I'm not mistaken, they sort of get faster with each round, so it sort of goes to the fighters to go, well, come on,
Yeah,
kick them again.
yeah,
Brutal sport.
so good. Yeah, so brutal sport, but everybody's so laid back. It's really nice. Different pace from LA.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course, because obviously you guys went out to LA as well. I was going to say you must be semi used to seeing brutal sports with Tony being a former boxer.
Yeah, definitely. It's not nice though.
No.
Yeah,
I bet it's not.
It.
I think it's it'd be quite good to get the perspective from a spouse in terms of that, because obviously, well, on the podcast I've had quite a number of UFC fighters on the show, so I get their perspective of what it's like, but I haven't interviewed or spoken to any of their sort of partners or girlfriends or wives to go, what's it like watching your husband get punched in the head?
It's the worst. It's even worse for me because I know the back end of it. Obviously working in the emergency room, I know, like the effects of his injuries, or the worst effect. Like I'm always thinking the worst.
Yeah.
And I wasn't really watching him. I was watching the paramedics at ringside to make sure they were
yeah.
properly.
Yeah, I bet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would be a good series. Interview the spouses.
Interview the spouses, yeah. So what sort of guided you towards nursing? In general.
I just really loved helping people. It's really rewarding. Sounds cheesy, but that's what it is. You don't go into nursing to become a millionaire. It's just
especially not in the UK anyway.
Oh, and same in America. It's a calling. Like it's nice to help people, and I love meeting new people every day.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things that I miss about being in the ER. You never knew what your morning, what your day was going to be like, and how many interesting characters you'd meet.
I suppose working in the emergency room it's always gonna change. You're never gonna have like the same things constantly all the time. So it's gonna always keep you on your toes.
Yeah. You could be sitting down having your cup of tea, and then next minute, all sorts roll through the door.
Yeah, I don't think you guys get enough credit, like especially over here in the UK with the NHS. It's like, oh, the doctors need a pay rise. What about the other ones? What about the nurses that do all the dirty work beforehand?
Yeah. Have you ever been in the ER or the accident and emergency over there? It's called.
Yeah, a couple of times. Yeah, I went.
It sounds like it was an interesting experience.
No, there's been a couple, mainly as a kid because I was an idiot. Stupid things like playing rugby in the tennis courts when I was growing up and getting my head smashed into the ground and having concussion and things like that. I think the latest time for me personally was I was playing six-a-side football against a group of travellers, we shall call them, and it got a bit feisty, a bit punchy, and I was grabbing one of the players off one of my players, and another player decided to kick me in the head.
This was football.
Yeah.
Football got a bit punchy.
It got a bit punchy, yeah. There was no rolling around on the floor. But yeah, I remember getting home and I was like, my fucking jaw is killing me.
Mm-hmm.
And then I had to go up and have that checked out. But yeah, it was yeah, most of my trips were involving me being an idiot, basically, and or me being a big mouth, getting myself in trouble.
It's funny that you said the last time you went in was from playing football. Those were the busiest days on derby days.
Oh yeah,
absolutely horrendous. Back in Sunderland, so busy from the derby matches.
Of course.
Just
well,
everybody fighting.
I think a lot of like football fans forget about that rivalry because obviously Sunderland going down the way they did, which is a massive fall from grace. Like and it's a rivalry. As a football fan, you know, that's a rivalry I miss anyway. Put it that way. It's you know, I think the support up in the northeast is a lot different to the rest of the country. Myself, obviously, I'm a United fan for my sins. Although I can kind of wear my shirts at the minute. I'm feeling a bit brave.
Have you seen the documentary on Netflix about Sunderland?
Yes, I did.
It features the emergency room that I used to work in.
Oh, did it? That's awesome. That's awesome.
Because of how passionate the fans would get, and then obviously the drinking and spilling over into the fight, and then it would show the emergency room being overrun.
Yeah, that must be like Saturdays. You must be like, oh, can I not work today? This is.
Oh yeah, Saturday nights in the waiting room were like a nightclub. People would order pizza.
No way.
People would end up like, you know, like meeting another date. They would come in separately with injuries, and then they'd like get together in the corner. It was an experience.
Yeah, it's bizarre, isn't it? You must have the patience of a saint as well, because especially with especially on a Saturday when people have been drinking, or a Friday night. But I think just in general with people, because they're obviously hurt and they think that their injury is worse than somebody else's. Like I've had it before when I had to take my youngest in, where we bless her, she had chicken pox at the time. She couldn't have been much older than 2, and I was trimming her fingernails in the bath, and she slipped, and I slipped, and I cut a big chunk out of her finger. So I was like, and myself, like I've done quite an extensive bit of training within the military in terms of battlefield medics. So usually if it's like a little scrape or something, I'm like, oh, man up, will you? Put a plaster on it. But the blood, because obviously your fingers bleed quite profusely anyway, because the capillaries at the top. I panicked on this when I was like, oh God, we're gonna have to go get a stitch or something like that. And I remember going,
when it's own, it's a bit different.
Yeah, and I remember taking her down, and I was seeing these people like, and I was like, well, you're coming for a sprained ankle. Why don't you just go home and ice it? Stop being a retard. Like, it's like, you've got a cold. What's going on? Mm-hmm. I've almost cut my daughter's finger off.
Yeah. Well, these type of stories that I would tell, like among friends, that's how the idea came up for us to start the YouTube channel. Was all Tony's idea, because I would tell these stories and talk about all the things that I've seen at work, and I would just assume that everybody else would know. So I would say, well, no, you know, you don't know what's going on in the back of the ER. You know, the ambulances come straight in, or we get calls that somebody's dying or cardiac arrest, and there's a triage system. And so when I would tell these stories, Tony and my friends would go, you need to make a video about that. Nobody knows this stuff.
Yeah.
Yes, they do. I said, no, they don't. Like, you need to make a video about it. So that's how.
I suppose when you're immersed in the life of a nurse, it's sort of just common for you. You're like, well, clearly I'm going to triage these people from the most important to the least important.
Yeah.
If you're at the least important, you might think you're the most important, but
Right.
you're not. Like,
yeah.
Like,
and everybody forgets that. So I did do a video on that, actually, just saying that, remember that nurse who you saw when you first come in, like, they're trained and they know what to do, and if it's serious, they'll take care of it and they'll get you sorted.
Yeah, of course. It's like people think that they're just out there just for them. It's like, that's not the case.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, come on, have a bit of common knowledge, common sense, even. It's like, just chill out a bit.
And also, that nurse who triages at the front, that's what it's called. They're really experienced. They don't just put anybody in there.
Yeah.
No, they've got to be trained. So yeah, it's just reminding people, forget, you're right. I think that they're the most important thing.
Yeah.
And that I definitely would say that I've got a lot of patience, because so many times that I thought, oh my God, if this was Tony in here, if this was me mate doing this job, it's fine now.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Nurses do need this patience, and people have got to realise that you're not. Well, you are. In my opinion, you guys are superheroes, but you're just people. Like, and there's nothing. Hopefully, you haven't witnessed it or had it done to you personally, but I've seen it when I've been in the A&E with people that actually hurl abuse at either the reception staff or the nurses and things like that. It's like, what are you doing?
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've experienced that.
And
yeah,
and also it's like, you don't know what's going on with that nurse right now. She could have just had someone die on them. Worst case scenario. They have to put that then to the back of their mind, because they've still got 8 hours left of their shift or whatever it could be.
Yeah.
And you're there hurling abuse because you've got a splinter in your toe.
Yeah. So I'll tell you a funny, well, it's not really funny, but I'll tell you a story that you might already know it. But it's pretty shocking to know that when a nurse who's in the emergency room, accident emergency, if they have a patient who has, let's just say, dies, and they've been involved in a cardiac arrest, or something traumatic, like out taking care of somebody that brought in from a motor vehicle accident, they sadly pass away. If I was in, sorry, I was just ringing us. If I was in police force,
Popular.
Got that many iPads with the kids.
I know the feeling.
If I was in the police or I was a fireman, I would be given some time off, or at least a few hours. That was traumatic. Go and have a cup of tea, chill out for a little bit.
Yeah.
Get your head right. Or even, I think in the police, I might be wrong, they get like the afternoon off. Or if something traumatic's happened, they'll rotate and they'll be told to like go and chill out for a little bit. That doesn't happen in the accident and emergency. So you're exactly right when you say, like, you don't know what's just happened to that nurse, because so many times something's happened where that's really affected us, and I've been told, okay, you've got 4 more patients waiting for you, or you've got like the waiting room's full, like you need to get back to work. You don't have a minute to think or process it. That's why nights out for nurses get really messy.
Yeah, I bet. And it's not good, is it, when you think about it? Like, there's a lot of emphasis, especially, we'll use myself for it as an example, for troops coming back from war zones and things like that, and they're getting shot at. Not that I got shot at daily, but going through rocket attacks and things like that, and they come home and they're not the right person anymore. And
Yeah.
it's like nurses and doctors and other people who work in hospitals go through trauma daily, but it's like, oh, they're all right because they're nurses, they know what to do. It's like,
yeah,
but they're probably the worst ones that are probably going to be going through the worst sort of mental health sort of crisis, because they're like, they haven't switched off yet.
yeah.
As soon as they switch off, it'll all come out.
Yeah, and that's why the certain speciality of nurses have a higher instance of drug and substance abuse.
Yeah.
I wonder why.
I thought that might go coincide.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Because it's...
Yeah, there needs to be more resources, 100%.
You think there would be, considering the job is healthcare. It's like, just because it's not physical, it's a strange one. It's still, even today in 2022, it's still sort of taboo. It's like, I'm struggling a bit here. How are you though? Or are you just feeling a bit sad today? It's like, no, I've been going daily through trauma and I haven't had a time off. A close friend of mine, I'm not going to name him on here, he's a paramedic down in Plymouth, and he actually had to be put onto leave because he started struggling so bad. He was like, there's no cover for him, there's no relief, there's no like R&R. It's like shift after shift after shift after shift. And going nurses and paramedics, it's like, you guys are in the thick, you're in the trenches, you could say.
Yeah, every day. And just because you love to do that type of work doesn't mean that you should be left to deal with the trauma that comes with it alone.
No, exactly.
Yeah, so that happened to me. I just wasn't I wasn't taking care of myself. I didn't have like a healthy outlet, or didn't even know that I should have a healthy outlet because I felt fine. And then it wasn't until like, my own body took over and basically said like, no, you need to have some time off, because there is like such a stigma around it, just around mental health in general, not just for nurses. Like nobody really talks about it, but yet you would go to the doctor if you had a sore stomach or you had an infection in your leg, because you can see it and you can, like, it's physical. But you should go to the doctors if you're not feeling right in your head, because it's the same thing. It's an organ.
Exactly.
But not.
Which that sort of puts me onto a little point now. I got triggered the other day. I don't like using that word, because as somebody who suffered from depression himself, like went through a rabbit hole. I can't remember if it was on TikTok or Instagram or whatever, but obviously the man that everybody's talking about at the minute, of Andrew Tate, popped up, and he was talking about how depression isn't real. You just need to get on with it and stuff like that. And I was like, a few stuff, I was sort of like, look at him and go, I get that. Yeah, I can see where you're coming from. But that one, I was like, no. Oh, and just because there's a higher number of people coming out now, that's a good thing for a start.
Yeah.
I was like, doesn't mean it's a new woke thing. It's been around for generations. And I was like, I can understand his point on antidepressants and things like that, because me, as a personally, I hated taking them because they made me numb, and I wanted to feel. I wanted to find my own way of getting through it instead of relying on a pill to make me numb. Which, since I stopped, I haven't had a relapse, you could say, into a dark depressive state. I've been quite good. Because there's alternative things, but different things work for different people. But I was like, yeah, you can't just come out and say it's not a real thing.
Yeah, it's so dangerous, especially him for being in the public eye, to say something and just be so dismissive like that is really dangerous, because then somebody's not gonna, somebody watching that, I think, oh, then these things that I'm feeling aren't really real, and that ultimately leads, can lead to suicide, self-harming. you know, it's so irresponsible and dangerous for him to say that. It really is.
Definitely. It was just a bizarre thing that I saw. I was like, some things I see and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Other things I'm like, you're saying that now just to get clicks.
Yeah, just to get clicks and to get bites. Yeah, but it's really dangerous. And you know, people like that who are obviously haven't looked into it as much as what they say they have. You can't just, it's not black and white. And when something's like a little bit more complicated, people tend to just be dismissive of it. Oh,
Definitely.
it's just this, you know, but it's really complicated and it's different for every single person. That's why there's no test for it. You can't measure the chemicals in your brain.
Yeah, yeah.
So the easiest way for people is to just go, it's not real.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's the one of the big things around the stigma behind it. Definitely.
Yeah, when it's scary and when it's complicated, people are not willing to understand it.
100%. 100%. So sliding on through different topics now. Whose choice was it to go out to LA? Was it yours or Tony's? Because I know Tony went out and set up. Was it Box and Burn? I say that as though I don't know. I do know because I'm a fan of Tony.
Yeah, well, it was a joint decision. When we first met, I told him that I wanted to travel and maybe move somewhere else, and he was the same. He wanted to travel, and so we both agreed that would, you know, figure it out. I was still in nursing school, and he was training in the training camp for the Olympics. And I was about to join the RAF. He said,
Hey.
"No, don't do
I should have done.
I said, no, don't do that. And also a good friend of his was in the Air Force, was in the forces. And he said, no, don't do that. And so persuaded us and I waited for him, finished my nursing, start work in the emergency room at Sunderland Royal, which was the best thing I ever did. Amazing place to learn the skill. And then when he retired, when he was still professional, so he got his medal. Great. I couldn't go. I was working a shift.
Oh no!
In emergency. I remember working, and one of the nurses said, "Tony's on. I'll cover your patient. Go around the walk-in clinic and watch him."
Was it
so
Beijing? Was it Beijing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it was bronze. Beijing. Yeah.
And everybody was out celebrating in the pubs, and here's me grafting away at work. Yeah. So then when he came home and all the partying was done from celebrating and he turned professional, we were thinking about, you know, when's our chance going to be to travel? And then a chance came up for him to go and train with Tommy Brooks in LA.
Mm-hmm.
This is when he was still professional. So he would go on a camp, and I would come and visit him. And after a while, there was a good friend of ours, Paul Kane, who helped us get set up with a visa. And he said, "You know, you could move here." I said, "What? Can we?"
Yeah.
Said, "Yeah, you know, if you wanted to." So he said, "Yeah, you're a nurse. You'll be able to, they need nurses in America."
Yeah, I was going to say it's a transferable job, isn't it? Yeah.
So I did. I transferred, studied for the exam. It took us a full year. That was brutal. And when so study for the exam, and then when we're trying to get the visa through, the lawyer said, "Wait a minute, you have an Olympic medal? No, no, no. We're not doing it on the back of the nursing. Sorry, Sarah. If you guys, we're engaged, going to get married." She said, "No, he's got an Olympic medal. You'll get a green card like that." I said, "Oh, all right then."
Happy days.
Us two being, you know, too modest, not flaunting that he had a medal, and we got a green card really, really fast, and the rest is history.
That's pretty awesome. And also the title that you have as well for Master of Science.
Mm-hmm.
That is such a cool title. I'm so jealous.
it's just, I mean, it's just a master's.
Yeah,
I've
it
got,
just sounds so
yeah,
cool.
master's. So I am. I'm really proud of that actually, because
Yeah,
I've
so you should
worked
be.
hard to get that.
So you
Yeah.
should. I think a lot of people are far too humble when it comes down to qualifications and achievements like that.
Yeah.
I've had it before when I've passed a couple of like tiny little exams. It's like, oh,
No, it's good.
done
You
it
should
now.
be
But sometimes I look at it and go, fucking hell, I did that.
proud. Yeah,
And
next time you're in a hospital, I hope it's not, for yourself, but nurses have the letters after the names of everything, every exam or certification that they've done. And some of them have got like 10, 11, 12, 13 letters after the name. It's unbelievable. But
it
it's just like,
must be a
eh,
nightmare to type that out on an email. You have to get like it all set up.
yeah.
Get the
But yeah,
signatures set up.
now when you're in the hospital, notice it because it's hard work. It should be celebrated more.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. What sort of guided you into the sleep stuff?
Lack of sleep from me.
Well, there we go. There's the answer.
Yeah, it was the thing that I mentioned earlier about how like my body took over and I had like an issue. So I got a promotion as a sepsis coordinator, like another fancy title. So I left the emergency room. I was the educator in the emergency room during COVID. That was hellish.
Yeah, because
And then
obviously it was different over in America as well, wasn't it, with the
yeah,
laws and
well, I've
whatnot?
been doing the job in the ER over there I've done it like for 7, 8 years now. So yeah, it's all like second nature to me now. Um, and then I got this new promotion and everything's going great. And then 2 weeks into it, I had a panic attack. That's what the doctor said. Like my body just shut down
Yeah.
completely. And it's totally out of character for me. And I still don't even admit to myself that it actually happened. Like,
Yeah.
no, not me. No way.
It's a strange feeling, the panic attacks.
Yeah. I
Horrible.
didn't like the feeling of being the patient. No way. That was
Oh no, that
I
must be
And so,
uncharted
yeah,
territory for you.
yeah, I just took some time off and just did a reset. I'm lucky enough that I could do that in California state are really good with paying for disabilities, because that was, a mental disability. I couldn't go back to work
Yeah.
after COVID and a lot of people were suffering the same. And so I just started reading a lot. That's what I like to do. I'm a big nerd, so I'm reading all the time. And I started to read about sleep and how it's linked to so many health benefits.
Oh
And
yeah,
the
yeah,
more I read,
definitely.
the more I thought, why has nobody ever mentioned this? In all the years I've been in the hospital and hearing doctors ask the patients, what's going on with you at the minute? Like nobody asks if they're sleeping very well. It's not a
Yeah,
question. Should be, because it's
definitely.
linked to so many health benefits.
Yeah, yeah.
So yeah, I started just taking every course that I could possibly take on sleep and then just giving it advice. I like to help people, so you know,
Yeah.
it
The
felt good.
world's angels, nurses. But yeah, it's it sounded like a really stupid comment, but it's a very underrated thing, sleep. People take it for
Mm-hmm.
granted. Like
More
I I
underrated.
I see it all the fucking time on socials because people obviously put people like Jocko Willink and David Goggins and to name a couple up on this pedestal because they sleep like 4 hours or 3 hours, but then they crack on with the rest of their stuff and they're like, just get after it. You're like, hey,
Yeah,
how about you get after some actual sleep?
yeah. That's yeah. It's so old fashioned. So old fashioned for people to say that now. It's a really like egotistical like like they want to say that they're so masculine, they don't need
Mm,
sleep. Like do your 4 hours, and I don't need sleep like
Yeah.
you do. There's no way around it. There's no like life hack or medication or steroid you can take to try and like not sleep.
Yeah.
And that's what I love about it. Like you can't hack it. You just have to sleep.
Yeah. It's mad that but I also think it's like, because I don't know him, so it's like, how much is actually true that you guys are only sleeping 3 hours? Because anybody could take a like, on his socials he'll have like a picture of his watch with the time, and it's like, well, you could have taken that anytime and then just
Yeah. And why would they promote that? It's so dangerous.
Yeah. It's like
If
it's
somebody
as
that.
though, I find this quite often as well, being a former military person. Like, people think that the sun shines out of our ass at times. It's like, oh, those guys are in the military, they know what they're talking about. Well, most of us are thick as shit, so I wouldn't listen to. And yes, we are sort of semi-trained to deal with sleep deprivation and how to react, but that's because we need to be trained for the worst of the worst. If we're out in theatre and something happens, we can't just go, hold on, I've still got 3 hours yet for my 8 hours. Come on.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
But that,
And that is a short-term way to live.
yeah, exactly. It's not. We
That's
don't do that. Yeah, we don't do that constantly. In peacetime, when we're back in the block, yeah, we might like Rivali might be at like 7 o'clock in the morning, but we're not told, right, you go to bed at 2 o'clock in the morning. It's like, no, you sleep normally because you need it to recover.
Exactly.
That's why you have it.
I know. Yeah, and I used to like think back to all the times where I should have prioritized sleep, but I didn't. Like doing night shifts, we had to rotate. Every 3 months, you'd have to do a month of night shifts, and then sometimes you do a night shift, and they'd ask you to pick up a 12-hour shift like the following day. So you go to bed for the day, and then have to be back at work for 7 o'clock the next morning for your 12-hour shift.
It's a strange thing to do. Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? I
Yeah, and you
literally,
just yes.
I literally have just done that. So I turned up at work, coming back off my leave, and there was a new starter for our night team, and I was like, for a start, didn't know you were coming. Nice to meet you. And then he went off, and I was like, looking at my roster, and I was like, whoever's been in my position while I've been on leave hasn't done their job properly. So I've looked, I went, I've got people on holiday, like these next 4 shifts. I was looking at it and I was like, we haven't got any cover.
Oh.
I'm going to have to fucking do it. So I literally phoned up the scheduler and I was like, I'm going home. And he was like, what? And I went, I'm going home because I'm coming back in tonight to do the night shift. He was like, oh, you really? I was like, well, yeah, someone's got to fucking do it. Otherwise the site's running on its own.
Yeah.
And he was like,
and I get that, like, work and babies, and I had 3 kids, like I've got 3 kids, like they're all really young and working shifts and having babies and being pregnant, and I get it, like I've been there and I know how hard it is.
yeah.
But my advice is just when you can, because I understand, you've got to live, you've got to cover, you've got to do your duties and make sure everything's done. Just when you can, prioritize it, instead of, we all do it. I love it. Sitting watching Netflix or drinking your drink late at night, watching the telly, eating your snacks. It's the best thing in the world. I love it. But
yeah.
I also know that it's not good for you and you have to prioritize it and just go to bed.
Yeah.
And, you're just going to feel like mentally, you feel so much better. Never mind all the health benefits.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely. Tell you what, I'm just going to do, because Zoom is brilliant at the minute. So it only gives you 40 minutes.
Okay.
So if I ping you another link, we'll continue the sleep chat after these messages. And then I won't take up any more of your time, and then we'll close it up.
Sounds good.
Cool.
I'll watch out.
I'll ping you the link now.
Cool. Good.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
Happy days. Happy days. Yeah, so back to the sleep talk, because intrigues me. Like, because obviously I've seen quite a lot of people quite close to me that struggle with sleep. Like, they're constantly putting up, oh, here comes the narcolepsy again and things like that. And I know what it's like having bad sleep. Oh, what just happened there? Hold on. There we go. Don't know what just happened there. It just cut you off my screen. Yeah, I know what it's like having bad sleep, because when I was at my worst point with my depression, it completely affected my sleep. And then obviously when that happens, then you get stuck in a rut. So it's have a bad night's sleep, wake up grumpy, moody, which then affects the rest of your day, because then you start feeling even worse and worse. Then you can't sleep again. And then I suffer, because it hasn't gone away, from the sleep paralysis as well, which is, I can't remember the actual term for it. It's gone out of my head. Which is fun. That's fun. It's probably the worst thing in the world, if I'm honest. But yeah, any sort of hints or tips for people that suffer from these different types of sleep issues?
Yeah, I would say like the biggest thing is just be patient with yourself, because that's one of the things I remember feeling, like just so anxious, like you're feeling down, you can't sleep, like you said, it puts you into this spiral. You know, it's like with any illness, you have to give your body time, and you have to be kind to yourself and be patient. You're not going to feel better the next day. Like, it does take time. So just be nice to yourself, and that's the biggest thing. Just be patient.
Do you find, because it's got to be, that's probably the best advice, is definitely be patient, because it's sort of just popped into my head now, because obviously you get frustrated because you're not sleeping, because you're like, I keep waking up at 3 o'clock and I can't get back to sleep. And then it's like, you get to the point where you're about to go to sleep or go up to bed or whatever, and then you get anxious because you're like, well, I'm going to wake up. So I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, you know, just especially when your alarm's going to go off at 6 in the morning, you wake up at 3. Like, oh, I wish I never looked at that alarm. Now I feel anxious because I can't get sleep. I feel tired and I've got like 3 hours left until my alarm goes off. Like, don't check your phone. I keep my phone out of my bedroom now, because it's got Amazon on, and I was spending a fortune.
Yeah.
Like, B, the bright light in your face, like that actually, like, scientifically is bad for you, because the blue light stops your body from making melatonin. So that's why you should be wearing blue light blocking glasses, especially on the night. They're like those weird orange lensy glasses. Hold on. That's them.
It's mine. I wear mine at work.
Yes, those are for the computer ones.
Yeah.
But I'm going to send you a pair that I'm making.
Oh.
That are like orange.
Awesome.
And also for wait, I'll get them.
Cool. Yeah, because I wear mine at work to so I'm in front of the laptop pretty much all day.
Yeah, for ice cream.
And I've got the they're pretty fucking cool, actually.
These are for nighttime. I mean, you're not going to put them on in the middle of the night, but if you do, say you can't get back to sleep and you end up on your laptop, put these on, or especially put them on if you can't help yourself watching Netflix. Put these on, and then it stops. So blue light stops your brain's production of melatonin. Melatonin is what helps you fall asleep. It doesn't help you stay asleep, but it helps you fall asleep.
Yeah.
And the science behind this is that the orange blocks the blue light, so your body still thinks it's nighttime and it's still going to produce melatonin. You know, it's just going back to caveman days where we didn't have blue light and an iPhone and an iPad in your face.
It's
so your
like
body.
it's like these tech companies want you to stay awake.
They do. Do you know that? Do you know that Netflix tweeted that sleep is its biggest enemy?
No.
How cheeky is that? They did. The
Sake.
cheeky buggers.
Yeah, that's well. Of course, they're not wrong, are they? They're like, well, we want you to be awake because then you'll get angry because that's what people do on Twitter. I find that's what I do on Twitter. I get angry at people, and then you're going to argue, and then you're going to go on it some more, and then you're going to find another rabbit hole, and then you're going to find some conspiracy theories, and you're going to go on YouTube.
And they just want us to sit and watch. They just want us to sit and watch Netflix all night. So they can get paid.
Yeah, definitely.
Don't do it.
I was going to say, what was the science behind the actual orange on the glasses? That's
it's blocking that. It's blocking that. You know, every light has a wavelength, so it's blocking. This lens blocks that particular wavelength of light from getting into your retinas. And you know, that's why, you know, I always say as well, when, like, another tip, it's actually a huge tip for better sleep. It starts the minute that you wake up. So as soon as Tony wakes up, this is what I do. Like, we'll take his phone's not even there, but I'll drag him out of bed in the morning, and he has to look at the sky. It sounds daft, but you have to do it. Like, you have to look at the sky and get the light early in the morning in your face, like on your eye. I'm not saying stare at the sun and burn your eyelids, burn your eyes. You know, like getting that light in your eyes. It sets your body's internal clock to realize that it's morning time, and it releases a different set of hormones. So it's all interconnected with each other from the minute we wake up to the minute we go to sleep.
Yeah, because I think, you know, we forget that. That's how we would wake up and go to sleep as cave people.
Yeah.
Was when it got dark, well, we're going to sleep now because there's stuff that's going to eat us.
Right.
And then when the sun comes up, it's like, well, that's like your alarm clock.
Yeah.
And
it's just the basics, isn't it? But we forget.
Yeah, and that's why I feel so badly for my night team. So the client I work for wants a day team and a night team. So it's not like most places of work where they mix and match, especially in security work, which is what I do, where you do a set of shifts on days and a set of shifts on nights where it mixed up. Our client wants days, which, you know, for the people working on days is, pardon the pun, happy days. You know what I mean? You, apart from the fact that you get up when it's dark and you go to bed when it's dark when in the winter, but that's by the by. But nights, it's because I've done nights for the last 4 nights, and it's horrible.
Yeah.
You don't sleep well when you finally get into bed. Like, apart from this morning, I literally went out like I didn't even hear the missus and the kids go off to work and school. Like, I didn't hear any of that. I was gone to the world. But, you know, as soon as any sort of light comes in, it's as though it's like, oh, I gotta get up now.
Yeah, it is so hard. Like, I remember working night shift, and it's really, really difficult. And there are some people, though, who that's their body's natural rhythm, so they don't function well during daylight hours. You know, they're usually asleep, so you just find your body's own rhythm. But there's so many studies that say, like, night shift is bad for you, like, long term.
Yeah, I've read similar things.
Yeah, you know, like the CDC, that the what we use, or like this Center for Disease Control.
Yeah.
All over the news for COVID, but you know, that's what we follow as nurses over here. Like, when we need information, and they class night shift as a carcinogenic, so something that can give you cancer.
Brilliant.
How mad is that?
Yeah.
And yet, all you're given is, like, for nurses, like a little extra stipend on your wages that you did a night shift.
Yeah, well,
it's actually really bad for your health.
Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it? Because I think I think my team, I'm not 100% sure on this. I think they both get paid the same, even though like the nights are on, as it would be, unsociable hours, I think they call it. But yeah, it's like I would never go for a job where it was just nights. I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Definitely not.
A lot of the new nurses over here, they get put onto night shift to start with.
Really?
Which is really brutal. That's so hard. You know, night shift there's less resources, so you shouldn't actually be on night shift as a new nurse. You should be on day shift where there's more resources.
Yeah, more resources, more people about, more doctors, more consultants.
Yeah.
Fucking
so
hell.
yeah, it is tough. But if you do have to do your shifts, like you say, like, and you're not sleeping, my advice is don't put pressure on yourself, because you're just going to start that whole circle of feeling even more anxious, and it takes time.
Definitely. Because when I was going through my stages, the biggest benefit for me was definitely CBD oil. I know people are going to go, fucking hell, Tommo, you're sponsored by a fucking CBD company. Of course you're going to say that. Yes, I am. But I used to take it before I was sponsored by it, and I take it before I go to bed. I'll do a few drops, and it's as though it sort of just relaxes me.
Yeah.
But whether it is a placebo effect or not,
yeah,
I'm pretty sure the science behind it says that it does work.
Yeah.
So it does work.
Natural.
But even so, even if it is a placebo and it's working, I'm getting better sleep now than I was when I was taking antidepressants.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, it's natural. I wouldn't. Yeah, the CBD is fine. The THC,
Oh,
that's another thing. Yeah,
yeah, I'm not
that's
doing
another
that.
thing. Yeah. So, and yeah, CBD is natural. THC, that's going to mess with your sleep, definitely.
Well, any sort of drug affects your sleep, doesn't it? So even coffee, alcohol, probably even smoking. I'm not 100% like that. I've never smoked, so I don't know. But I know my mum is quite a heavy smoker, and she's always had shit sleep. So
yeah, I'm not surprised. Yeah, anything that's putting extra stress on your body, even like having a really heavy late night meal, you know, like Indians and tiger beer is not good for you right before you go to sleep.
Good choice of beer to go with the Indian.
Oh yeah.
I'm a fan of tiger beer. I'm also a fan of Cobra. Cobra is quite good with a curry.
Yeah, Chang's nice as well. I'm enjoying a Chang over here right now.
Tell you what, getting Thai food from the source as well.
Yeah.
So,
but not late at night, because back to the subject.
I love a tangent.
Getting back to the subject, it does mess with your sleep because it makes your heart rate increase, which is not what you want when you're trying to sleep.
Because obviously the body's working, isn't it? It's digesting, it's doing what it needs to do. So it's like I'm still working here, and it's like, oh, I just want to go to sleep, but I can't because I'm full.
You know, your body actually works really hard when you're asleep, and this is one of the things I was learning, is that, you know, I always just thought like your sleep is, you just need to get it out of the way, get a few hours of rest. But it's actually not. Like, your body works really hard, and it needs that time to work hard so you can function the next day. Because every time that you use a muscle, every time you use anything in your body, there was a waste product. You know, like using your muscle, there's lactic acid. So every time your body uses something, especially in your brain, it builds up something called adenosine, and it has to sleep. So that's what builds up. Adenosine builds up and builds up and builds up in your brain. And then eventually that adenosine buildup is so great, you need to sleep so your brain can flush it away.
Well, there you go.
So I thought that was really interesting to think that a sleep is actually a busy time and you need it to clean your brain out. That's why if you don't sleep, your brain's still messy inside. Hence you feel wrecked.
Yeah. Well, it's actually a really good way of putting it. Scientific as well, if anything.
Yeah,
But
scientific.
yeah, how we'll use the husband as an example. What was his sleep like while he was still fighting? It must have
Terrible.
been terrible.
Terrible.
Getting punched in the head for a living.
Isn't hindsight beautiful? You know, I wish that all the things he actually says in one of his videos. I said, imagine if you slept well, as good as what you did then, like you might have won a gold instead of a bronze.
Yeah.
But it's true, you know, he, oh God, tried so many things, terrible sleeper. And looking back, we're doing all the wrong things. You know, like sweaty palms, thinking about his opponent, and, you know, just doing all of the wrong things, totally the wrong things, which now we know. And actually not even thinking that he needed sleep for recovery. If you're an athlete.
Yeah, of course.
If you're an athlete and you think to yourself, I only need 4 hours sleep, then you're not a true athlete. And I'll say that to your face.
Yeah.
Because clearly you don't know anything about recovery. And you need to know about recovery if you're an athlete.
Yeah. Well, speaking to a few of the fighters that I've had on the show, they're always like, well, I go in, I train, then I come home and I have a nap. And I get up and I train some more and I come back and I'll probably have some food and then another nap. It's like, fucking hell, you guys nap a lot. Like,
yeah, like babies.
And then you think about it, you're like, well, yeah, because they're trying to get their muscles recovered. They're trying to flush out, especially fighters, the crap that's been battered into their head, especially if it's sparring.
Yeah. Yeah.
What?
More important.
So sounds like a Q&A right now. So are naps important? Would you suggest naps?
Everybody's different. So, for instance, Tony can't nap. If he does, then he's awake the whole of the night.
Yeah.
It's like, think of babies, you know, each toddlers.
I suppose. Yeah.
Each toddler's different. My one toddler used to need both of her long naps. My third toddler, she couldn't nap. You know, and it's different preferences. So if you feel like you need a nap, I would say if you do have a nap, don't make it any longer than 40 minutes, because then that's when you'll start to get into the cycles of like your non-REM, your REM, your deep sleep. So keep it like 40 minutes. I love a good 15-minute nap.
Because my missus's family, they're all nappers.
Yeah.
They're all cat nappers. Like, you'll be having I swear, even Sunday I went round to watch the football and my father-in-law was literally nodding dog for at least 20 minutes. I was literally watching him, and 1 minute is like back like this with his mouth open, next minute he's down, and it's like, but they just nap anywhere. And my wife does it as well. I literally, so I said, you guys are descendants from cats, I swear down. You're always napping.
But I would say, I love a good nap, but I don't have a problem with my sleep. But if you do have a problem with your sleep, you can't sleep at night, when you're having a nap, obviously cut out your nap.
Yeah.
Go for a walk instead. That'll wake you up.
Yeah, definitely. And do something physical.
Yeah, and then I bet you can fall asleep at night.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I found one of my officers having a fucking nap last night. Cheeky little bastard.
Oh.
Yeah.
Just a quick. Sometimes, like, there was nowhere to nap at work. Absolutely nowhere. And Facebook had it right. They had like bean bags and like sleep rooms.
Yes.
And so for the longest time, there was nowhere to nap until recently they made like a quiet room for nurses to go and shut their eyes.
Yeah.
And they haven't done a study, but this would be great research to see whether
it would be, wouldn't it?
Medication errors went down when they made a nap room.
Yeah. even productivity as well. Because obviously, if you're starting to feel a bit laggy and a bit tired, and you're like, "Fucking hell, I've been on this shift for, I'm pulling extra hours here. I'm doing a 14, 16-hour shift."
Yeah.
It's like you could
Need a nap.
probably do with an extra little fucking nap or something. Do you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
definitely. Even just like for people who say they can't nap, but they're feeling really, really tired, like, when you're driving, just pull
Mm.
over and not necessarily going to sleep, but it's just they call like somebody call it a power meditation. I don't know if I'd use that word, but it's just going and just
Yeah, yeah.
shutting your eyes even for just a
Shut,
couple of minutes.
yeah. Just in a dark room, shut your eyes and just go
Yeah,
and relax.
yeah, helps massively.
That's the worst, by the way, when you're driving
Mm.
and you're nodding because you're like, how long have my eyes been closed?
You know that the most I read that the highest amount of car crashes at the daylight saving time when everybody's tired.
Yeah. That's. I'm still confused why we still do that.
I don't know. Makes sense to me, it really doesn't.
Doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah, if anybody can explain it, I'd love to hear it. But yeah, that's when the most car crashes are. They did a study over like 10 years over like civilizations that do the time change, and lo and behold, that's when the most
Yeah.
car crashes are.
It's also bad for like, well, it's good and bad for those that work nights as well, because obviously on one side you lose an hour, so you're like, oh, I only doing an 11-hour shift. But
Yeah.
then the next time you're like, oh, I've got a 13-hour shift coming. It's
Oh,
like
that was the worst, watching that clock. And it
I've
would get to 1 and then they would put it back to 12. Oh,
I've got a funny story about that. Actually, so before I got one of the first jobs I had when I left the military, I did cash and high values in transit. I'd be one of those guys with the helmet on and the big box.
right.
And I had a start time of, I think it was it would have been 2 o'clock in the morning. So that's another strange one. Why does the clock change at 2 o'clock in the morning? But anyway, I got to work, drove in, parked up, getting ready to go, and I was like, check my watch, check my phone. I was just about to get out, check my phone again, and it's gone back an hour. And I went, oh, for fuck's sake! Now I got to stay in the fucking car park for an hour
Oh, no.
before I go in.
Yeah, that's the worst.
I had a nap. Definitely had a nap.
That's the best thing to do.
So, just on like a bit of a tangent here now. So obviously you're out in Thailand now,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to hazard a guess. You say you've definitely taken the kids with you.
Yeah.
Yeah. You haven't just left them, have you? Go off on your travels. So
No.
how's that working then? Are you homeschooling them? Have they got a
No, we're homeschooling, just me.
Oh,
Just me. No, it's okay. They're young. They're 8, 6, and 4.
yeah.
So yeah, we've got them the iPads, and they're doing a little bit online and then a little bit with me. Yeah, they're
Oh,
doing all right actually.
that's
You know
pretty cool.
what? We're used to it because of COVID, because
Yeah,
they
yeah,
had to
yeah.
homeschool
Yeah,
anyway.
of course.
So they
And
went back for maybe like 6 months, and yeah, and then that's it. Around about the time that I said, oh, we need to go traveling while we can.
but also like, you know, myself, I'm in the confines of like on the wheel, you could say, where it's they're back at school, I'm at work, blah 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 blah.
Yeah,
And you only get those sort of life experiences in the summer holidays or the fall holidays or whatever. But
yeah,
your kids are getting awesome life experiences right now. They're out in one of the best countries for history and
yeah,
and culture and things like that. They're out in
yeah.
Thailand at that age. That's
That's it.
brilliant.
I mean, that's what we want. That's what we want for them to just. I really wanted them to see kids who are in a different culture,
Yeah.
Because, you know, they were starting to get a little bit too spoiled in LA with the pool and the chickens and like everything that could ever want in life. And then they'll come up to me and say, I'm bored. Like, are you joking?
I hate that.
You don't know you're bored. You're bored.
Yeah. But
So,
my kids still get confused when I let them know that I'm older than Google. It's like and to be fair, I've said it before on the podcast actually. Like one of the best things that I've ever let my my eldest daughter watch was Stranger Things, because even though it's got all the supernatural stuff within it, it shows what it was like growing up in like the 80s and well, even in the 90s. Because she was taken back. She was like, but they're out at night on their bikes. And I'm like, that's what we did.
yeah.
That's what you could do if you got off your ass and got out of the fucking house.
Yeah.
Even though it's a slightly different time, there were, well, I wouldn't say they were less creeps. We just didn't know about them. But
yeah, that's it. So we've all got them air tags because I'm paranoid about them being stolen.
yeah,
We've all got these little bracelets on air tags, but that's the thing. Like,
that's a cool thing to have.
We didn't think about, you know, you played in the woods until it was dark, and then you were told to come back when you were hungry.
Yeah,
that was it. And all the neighborhood played out.
I still remember like my mum really getting the ump with me because I would forget to tell her where I was going. So I'd go out to the park and we go, oh, should we go down the woods? Yeah, let's go down the woods. And then I'd get home and, where the fuck have you been? I've been in the woods. You didn't let me know. I was like, well, it'd be easy to go back in time now and go, well, I don't have a fucking phone to tell you, do I? Do you want to send a carrier pigeon to you? Or it's crazy.
Yeah, that's really good that they're learning that from Stranger Things.
It's nice. It's nice because even now they go out the front of our house and my eldest rides a bike around the estate, and the younger one goes off on a scooter because she's a pain in the ass and is like, well, I want my stabilizers. I'm like, you're 8 years old, just ride the fucking bike. But then she's like, no, I'm not. But yeah, it's awesome the different sort of life experiences that they go through. We had quite I'd probably say like an early 90s sort of holiday this year. We went to a caravan park in Hastings, which I remember doing as a kid. We'd go to Porthcawl or Barry Island with my gran. So we took them down there. We did lots of little sort of days out. We went to see my nan, who's in a care home at the minute. Little trips to the beach and things like that. And it's like, you don't need to go abroad all the time to get these different experiences. And the final thing we did do the Stranger Things experience in London for my eldest, which was fucking incredible. I have to admit, the way they've made it, it was though I was in the show. It was fucking great. I loved it. And but my eldest, she said to me after, she went, Dad, this has been the best holiday that I've had so far. And I was like, oh, you're too polite. Come here, you little nerd. But yeah, I love all that.
Yeah.
And
that's it. I used to go to the Lake District for my summer holidays.
That's a lovely area. It's a lovely area.
So nice.
Definitely.
Yeah, just giving them a different perspective. I just hope that it's going to be good for them.
I think it will. Definitely.
Another reason why we did it was because of the massive homeless population in LA.
Yeah.
It was becoming normal. It was becoming normal for them to walk past a homeless person and just look the other way like it was no big deal.
Because it's sort of
heartbreaking.
It's sort of like got a big like black barrier around it. Not many people, especially over in the UK, know about the huge homeless population in LA, unless you watch, I can't remember what the show was. It's about that random hotel that's in
Hotel Cecil.
That's the one. That's the one.
Yeah, we drive past that when we go downtown.
Yeah,
it's really cool.
So I never knew how bad it was until I saw that, and I was like, Jesus Christ, it's like an actual village.
Skid Row. Yeah,
So,
Skid
well,
Row.
it's probably bigger than a village because I'm using like UK sort of thing. It's probably like a town. Oh, there's a little one.
A boy teacher. Go outside, I won't be long. Good.
You know what? That was actually going to be one of my questions to you, actually. So I was going to say, obviously, you and Tony are both from the northeast. What accents do the kids have?
It's a weird mixture of LA and Mackham.
I bet they pick up certain twangs from yourselves.
Yeah, well, my mum and dad live with us too, so they help massively with the kids. So they pick up stuff off my mum and dad all the time.
I was going to say, it's strange because where I am, I'm not from where I live now in the southeast. I'm literally the opposite.
Here
Tony,
is.
there he is.
Hello, mate. How are you?
I'm very good, thank you. How are you?
I'm liking your old school Man United top.
It's got to be retro. It's got to be retro. Oh, I was saying to Sarah, I'm allowed to wear it at the minute. Where it's been in hiding for a few weeks. Well, for a couple of years, should I say?
Well, I like you to get on with it. Nice meeting you, mate.
And you. But yeah, like I was saying, so I'm down in the southeast. So my wife and the kids have got this. I hate it. They've got this horrible southern accent, and I'm from basically the West Country, so I've got like a farmer's type accent. But I've lived down south for so long that I'm getting all these little twangs popping in, which I don't like. But the girls, every now and then, they'll say things very similar to my niece. And she's from Hereford as well, so she's got the same accent as me.
Yeah.
So every now and then, there's certain words I'm like, you don't sound like you're supposed to. But they get the piss taken out of them when they go back and see me mum and that. It's
bless them.
They're all like that, aren't they?
When we go back home, everybody they make them say this, say this, say this.
Yeah, I bet.
Leave them alone.
Performing monkeys.
Yeah.
Well, I think you're getting little nudges from the little ones and the big one. It seems
they just came back from They just came back from gymnastics.
Oh, so, even better! What a brilliant sport to get kids into as well. My daughters do gymnastics.
Gymnastics and jiu-jitsu. That's what we've put them in.
I tell you what, I've semi done a little bit of jiu-jitsu, so I've taught my eldest a few different locks and chokes, and her rear naked choke is the most brutal thing I've ever seen.
Brilliant. I want to be able to sleep when they're teenagers.
Yes.
I need to teach them how to choke somebody.
Well, they've obviously got a good coach with Tony, so they're definitely going to be able to strike quite well. So definitely. But yeah, thank you very much for giving me the time and coming.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for letting me on your podcast. I appreciate it.
No, the pleasure's all mine.
Brilliant.
Enjoy Thailand. Don't eat too much food. Sleep well.
Yes. I'm gonna have a beer now.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. Cheers.